Okay, welcome to another episode of Panakal podcast for Geeks, the show about good friends hanging out, talking about things we all love. Our guest today is Giancola, he's below today, and Andrew, you're back where you belong, and my co-host Andrew Sides. How's it going, Donato?
Yeah, all right.
Hey, thanks for being on a Sunday. I know everybody likes
for
to
joining us.
chill on a Sunday, but we got you to jump on the show. I did have a list of questions for you. I told you earlier I lost them all, so I'm gonna have to wing it. But I actually thought of something really cool to talk about yesterday when I was driving, which was I realized you're also one of the Smart School instructors. So I was going to ask you how Smart School's been going because it just started this week for you, right?
Yeah,
the
first, right.
What was that?
I've been Rebecca Gay started that as I think a kind of a spin-off continuation from the demand from the illustration masterclass.
Yeah, right? I'm in Scott's class actually.
Oh, you are for this semester.
Yeah, you kept sneaking in on our class last semester. Every time Donato would sneak in and like comment on our work, we'd all be like, Donato's here.
I just that's what just recently happened was we updated one of our computers for my daughters, and I took the old one and put it in my studio. It's an iMac. It's like a 24-inch one of those guys. It's ancient. It's like 12 years old, but it's the first time.
Perfect for a paint studio then.
What's that?
Perfect for a paint studio.
It's like 12 years old. It's like it doesn't matter if it gets covered in paint, falls apart. Yeah. But it's the first time I've actually had a computer in my studio now. It is. I've got this room. It's like 12 years old. It's like I call it the computer room because it's got printer, oversized printer, the monitors, scanners, photography, and then I go to my studio and it's like you step back to the caveman times. It's like only traditional media kind of world. So that's cool. So basically that's why I'm tuning in, Alan, is I finally have a platform, a way that I can just jump in and join and listen to classes.
Yeah, you mentioned you listen while you're painting.
Exactly, that's what's happening. So whenever you hear me tuning in, I'm typically at the drafting table. No, not typically, always, because that's the only time I'm actually there in front of that computer is when I'm working.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't think you realize the level of like what happens to the rest of us when you jump in that call. Because like I think you and I know each other from being at LuxCon and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so we talk all the time. Yeah. So in my eyes, I'm like, oh cool, Donato's here. It scares. I don't mean that like in an insulting way at all. We're friends. But yeah, some of the students are like, they freeze up right away, and you could see it in the chat if you just read it. Everyone's like, "Oh shit, what do I do?" I'm like, "Just relax, man. He's not grading you. Like he's gonna chime in and offer some amazing advice if he wants to.
I tend to just wanna just tune in, and just hear.
I think it's cool.
See what other people are doing.
I think the auditing idea, which is something I didn't know about until last fall, I think is a cool thing because the reason I started taking before fall, the reason I started taking Scott's class was I audited the class, so I was able to get a taste of what it's like, and then you're like, this fits what I want to do, and even if you audit, you can totally learn just by watching and doing your own thing.
Totally. Yeah. Actually, I believe that. I think that's like half of the learning process is it's always nice to watch someone else get crucified than getting crucified.
Anyway. That is a good way of putting it. Yeah. I do see. I remember
their stuff gets torn apart. They cry tears. Oh no, sorry. I'm thinking of dance class, not Scott's.
Yeah, that is dance class. Yeah, I mean that is every story I hear about dance class is like people are always like, "Woo!" I mean, I asked Dan for a portfolio review once, and he said, "I don't really like to make my friends cry." I was like, "Wow." But he did give me a review. I did not cry. He gave me a really good review.
It's he's giving it honest.
Oh, it's so on point.
Yeah, I'm a softie. Yeah.
I mean, I still remember my first Smart School with Scott was like 4 years ago or 3 years ago, and at that time I was still trying to learn a little bit more anatomy. I've gotten better at it since those days, but I remember like Mark was the TA at the time, and both of them. There's just one session where both of them just like they ripped my work apart, but in like a constructive way, right? And when it was over, a lot of students were messaging me on the side like, "Wow, are you okay?" You know, I'm like, "I'm fine." Yeah. You know, like I'm like, that's what I needed to hear to like move forward. And even Scott and Mark messaged me later to be like, "You really took the heat on that one, like because it was like studying the face and everything. I even drew like my faces suck still, but I gotten better since that time, and I drew some janky faces, and I remember I submitted them because I'm like, this is what I got, man. This is what I'm, you know, you have to just, you know, what is that saying? You got to get all the bad stuff out before you get to the good stuff. So I just shared what I had, you know, and, but it was kind of nice that at the end of that session, people were messaging me to just be like, are you okay? That was,
good community, right?
Yeah. And that's, people don't understand the community always is got like, you know, even after some of Scott's classes, I've messaged students later, just be like, hey, how do you feel about that? You know, like, don't take it so hard, you know, like, because a lot of people see like us out there, like myself out there and stuff, doing like what they consider really well. And you're like, I'm just doing the work, man. I've been at this for 8 years, you know, it just builds up on itself if you just keep going.
Yeah.
There's no magic answer.
Well, hopefully, 8 years, you're going to start hitting the accelerator. Like, actually, that's about when
man.
Mike started. Well, I think it's when you get to a certain point, you're comfortable with what you're doing. You're comfortable with your themes. Like it's becoming you. You don't have to like, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do that. It's like, no, this is what I want to do. And then you can start amping up the gearing and the confidence and going and narrowing. And basically it's, you're putting on, it's interesting. You're putting on in a way more blinders on yourself. So you concentrate on stuff you really want to do. And that's almost literally like 7 years. Like that seventh year in my professional career was when stuff started happening.
Okay.
You know, like a jumping way. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my first 2 years I spent doing primarily fan art stuff. So I guess, you know, until I really developed. I think I met you at the first time I really sat down and spoke with you was San Diego Comic-Con. I want to say it was 2016 when I was working Dave Seeley's booth.
Oh yeah, it's got to say that's right. Like when did you have time to talk?
Whenever
to me?
Whenever it was the last time you were there. I think you decided not to go every year after that. So whenever
it was that would have been 17. Yeah, 2017 was.
So it was 2017 then. I remember like you gave me a review and I was just like I was like literally like just asking anyone for a review, and then I took all that knowledge and started developing my style better. But yeah, I feel like, you know, it's slowly starting to pick up, which is nice. And I feel like a lot of the students in Smart School right now don't have that yet. And it's like, just like what I love seeing in the classes are the people that have their own IPs, somebody was telling me the other day not to call it an IP. I think it may have been Cynthia Shepard. I can't remember who said it, but they were like, don't call it an IP. Call it your own like personal project. Call it like something you actually love. Like calling it an IP almost.
An IP it tends to sound more commercial, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
you're kind of like
you're trying to. Was that the impetus behind her reasoning for that? Where it's like, don't treat it like a product.
It might have been Armand who said it to us.
Oh yeah, you know
it was Armand that said it to us.
Yeah.
Was that Balthazar? Yeah.
Yeah, we had Balthazar on last Sunday.
Oh, and it said stop calling it an IP.
Because like you're saying, it sounds so like professional. Like I'm trying to make it sounds almost like you're trying to make merchandising that you're trying to sell versus doing what you love.
He was talking about it. Yeah, he was talking about, I guess, in regards to like trials and tribulations with like getting film rights secured with his stuff and all that. But yeah, he mentioned during then, he was like, some people can kind of treat their stuff as an IP, but also gives you that, even though that kind of gives you a little bit of separation between it, so you kind of are okay with watching your darling get murdered. You know, you also you also have that. It also kind of creates that emotional separation from you that maybe is not good for the work itself. It's almost better to just kind of treat it like, no, this is my baby. Yeah,
right. Yeah, I guess an IP means you can detach yourself from it very easily once a sale.
Yeah,
it no longer feels like you want to work on something that you actually enjoy working on. That way you have that love for it over and over and over. But if you're like,
right,
I need to make another product or I'm going to lose money here, you're just like, well, now it's become a merchandising business versus the love of art or whatever it is you're doing. If you like make quilts, whatever you do. So, but yeah, I mean, like, I think you have, so like we talked about this before we went live, because I think it's hilarious that I talked to you at IX last time and I was talking about Lord of the Rings to you. You obviously love to paint Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
But you I don't know if you were just messing with me when we were at the show or not, but you were like, I'm not that big a fan. And I was just like, what? Like
there's levels. It's like
there's levels.
I'm like probably like a 13th level wizard, but then there's like 25th level wizards.
Like we all know Steven Najarian. That dude
I was just about to say, I'm pretty sure Steven's a 25th level
wizard. I've had him on the show, and his level of he was on for a Lord of the Rings episode with us, and his level of knowledge on Lord of the Rings was so high when that show was over. Multiple people were messaging me like, that dude knows a lot about Lord of the Rings. I was like, yeah, stuff we didn't even know. So, but yeah, so like that's, I feel like that's the point is like that's something you really love painting. Is that did you start out with Lord of the Rings stuff, or did you start out with personal projects?
Well, like let's see, start out like where do you want to dial that clock back?
Okay, let's go back a little bit. Let's say
comics, wouldn't it?
It'd be comic books, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like like every step it goes like, okay, there was comics. So kind of the first monthly comic I started collecting was Conan the Barbarian.
That's right.
Part of
the
it was
Buscema one.
Yes, John Buscema, like incredible, right? I mean,
it's so good.
Like I got to know his work so well. It's like, oh, he's not doing this issue. Oh, that sucks. So the story could be great. It's like you missed his energy, his dynamic quality to the Conan and the characters. I mean, sorry, I got to hear sirens. Brooklyn.
Welcome to Brooklyn. Hey, the same way when I was in the city. So
one of my favorite things is I have the omnibus of the Marvel Conan the Barbarian run, and what's great about it is like you can basically flip. You start in the beginning, you can see like John Buscema's like first work on that, and you can kind of flip to like one of the later pages and see how much he improved over the course of the entire run.
Oh, interesting!
And, it's so much fun to look over that.
Yeah, that was like that was formative for me. So that was I don't even remember. I have to go back and check the issues just to see how old I was. But if you dial that back further, I was collecting Mad magazines.
We all love Mad magazine.
Crazy illustrated stuff, right? And like it's interesting. Like there's no point I wasn't looking at other people's art,
right?
From children's book illustration and copying it and emulating it to the Mad magazine stuff to Conan. It's like I was just constantly taking in other artists' work and like regurgitating it out as a fan art. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's where all of us kind of started learning, right? Like fan art is like, I did fan art for 2 years. Like I said, I love drawing all the characters. I never drew a character I didn't like, cause I could never speak to the character. Like I always only drew characters I knew about and I enjoyed drawing or I would read, because if I got caught in a conversation in a show or something, I wanted to be able to talk to you about that character. Right.
Right. Yeah,
otherwise you're just like, I just drew him cause he's part of the team, or whatever, It's like, and I don't think I ever drew Wolverine, which everybody draws Wolverine. So
I've got lots of Wolverine drawings. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah. For me, it was not superheroes. For some reason, like superhero comics did not like enmesh with me a whole lot when I was younger. But I drew a lot of Jurassic Park fan art.
Andrew's a big dinosaur guy.
Yeah. So when I was younger, it was like nonstop dinosaurs, and actually, that's pretty much how I got into comics, because like Topps Comics put out like their novelization. I don't know what else to call it. Their novelization of the Jurassic Park movie, but in comics format. Yeah. And then they had a whole bunch of spinoffs and stuff. And I was reading those, and eventually I went into Conan the Barbarian, and then Hellboy from there.
Oh, like Hellboy.
Branched out from
there. Boy, that's a jump, man.
It was
There's like no in between for you.
Definitely like because like for me the only like superhero stuff that I liked when I was younger was the animated stuff. So I was like, oh, that's interesting, but I don't like those comics. But man, Batman animated series, that's amazing.
That is a good series.
Oh, one in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Did I show you this?
Yeah. Happened was
is it an art book of it?
It's a hard book. My friend so it's a little damaged. He works at half price. He said, I'll try to find you a better copy, but it was free to me. I was like, I'll take it for free.
I got a good story. Like when that debuted in 92, I believe, in the fall.
Yeah, like Batman Returns era. Yeah.
And I was living in Manhattan, just out of school with two of my friends, illustrator friends, and we would like stop working in the afternoon at 4:00 because that's when that Batman show came on. So we'd all take a studio.
Oh yeah,
dude, that is an amazing studio break.
Yeah, it was awesome because it was so good. It was like stylization, the narration, the voiceovers, and I mean all of it. The cinematographic quality of how it's shot. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, it had like an amazing soundtrack and an awesome opening. Like I used to always be like, I always thought Thundercats had the best opening, which I still think it does. But that Batman one is just so good. Just hits you different.
Yeah. It was good. Yeah, it was hot.
You know what? I actually think, if I remember right, I want to say the same Japanese studio helped out with Batman animated series as they did Thundercats.
Shut up.
That's
cool if that's true.
I want to say Top Craft. Or
I think the thing I really liked about that series too was
that may be too late at that era, because I think at that point it would already spun off into Disney Japan.
Okay.
And then the other half split off into Ghibli.
Oh, that's right. You mentioned that a couple episodes ago.
What about that era, Alan? What you're saying?
I was going to say what I really liked about that series also was when it ended, it still like kind of ended on a high note. Like the animation still looked good. The music was still good. The colors were still good. Like if you watch, so I had this talk with my friend a couple weeks back about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which the cartoon, okay? And if you watch it, it gets progressively worse. And it's because the studio was running out of money and could only use so many colors or something. And like the budgets got tight. Yeah. If you watch season 1 of the cartoon series, the opening is amazing, right? They put a lot of time into that thing. And then the cartoon episodes themselves, they were kind of goofy, right? But the colors are like much more vibrant. I don't know how else to describe it. But if you watch past season, I want to say there's 8 or 9 seasons. If you watch past season 4 or 5, you'll start seeing the colors deteriorating a little bit. And then if you watch past like 7 or whatever, later episodes, later seasons, the colors are like, they have almost the same green and like, and I was like, what's happening here? And he was trying to explain to me how the studio's budget got tighter. And then they were like, these are all the colors we can use. So
do you know who animated that? Was that Dick or Nelvana, or is it someone else?
Maybe one of the viewers knows, but I don't remember who animated it. But
I don't know.
I didn't even know it. And it's one of those things because when you're a kid and you watch that, you're so into that cartoon, you just want to see the cartoon. But then as an adult watching it, I'm like, wow.
Yeah. That's like that's in a way how I haven't really gone back and revisited hardly any of those older movies.
They're rough, man. Dude, I try to show my wife Voltron because the new Netflix series is really good. And I love the anime as a kid, right? I watched all of it. But watching it now is a little rough. Trying to explain to her how, like, what do they call it where the background moves but the main characters don't, That like weird,
you mean like
a pan or something?
Yeah, they do a ton of it in anime where it's like the ship's there and the background's just moving along, so it looks like the ship's moving with it. Voltron does that all day, and we were watching it and she's a little bit like, and I'm just like, and I'm sitting there like, I love this as a kid, so you can't sell it, you just can't.
No.
But the new one is really good if you haven't seen it. Oh, I am wearing a Voltron hat too. I didn't even think about it.
Oh, you do? All right.
My mom thinks this is a holy symbol, by the way. I'll say that live because she doesn't watch the show.
Holy symbol.
She thinks it's just a cross, like a cross of Christ. It's the crest.
Yeah.
She brought that up once. My sister looked at me. I said,
don't say anything. Just let her think.
Let it be. But your Conan comment reminded me. I remember when we were talking about this last year. I have a cousin who loved the Conan comics too. He had all the King Conans, Conan the Barbarian, I think, and he's got like Savage. Number 1. Yes.
Yeah.
And he's got them in like these hard. I forget who makes them, but he has like, those are like some of the earliest comics I saw as someone collecting. Because as a kid, really? I would just throw comics in my backpack and walk around with them and read them as I wanted. It's time to read the Spider-Man,
probably the Marvel one, yeah.
And it's all like janky looking because I've been just throwing it in my backpack. But then I remember my cousin was like, "Why aren't you putting it bagged and boarded?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about, man." And he shows me these Conans, and then he also has Daredevil number 1 through like 10, the original run.
Wow.
And then he's got Wolverine number 1, and they were in like these bagged and boarded and these like hard, not like the CGC sleeves, they're just hard like plastic sleeves of some sort. Wow. They were super tight, man, because he lived in a suburb out here called Skokie. And if anyone knows Skokie, it's super old, okay? And one time Skokie flooded, and these comics were in the flood. I saw them just like floating in the basement. And I wanted to go down there and collect them. And my dad's like, all the electronics is down there. You're probably going to get shocked. So he wouldn't let me go in the basement. And I just had to watch these comics floating there for like hours, right? And the comics were super dry when he finally collected them. Because this bag that he sealed them in was immaculate.
He got lucky.
I was shocked, man. He still got them. I see them when I visit his house all the time. I'm like, wow.
But the destruction of comics is how they become valuable. I've got a huge, that's what we got out. Like, I've got a huge collection of the 80s stuff, and it's worthless. It's like, 99%.
I mean, it's worth something to you.
Worthless. Yeah. But in terms of like bagging them and saving them, like they're worthless. They're not, some of them aren't even cover value. So
80s like the start of the speculator market ish, or was that like in the middle throw of it?
I think it's like middle 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, mid 80s. Okay. If I'm a kid in Vermont who's connected to nothing and I know enough about bagging comics, like the rest of the world knows about it did not start in Burlington, Vermont to bag your comics and save them. We were the last ones to get there. Yeah.
I mean, like I started, like my cousins, like I said, were the ones who they gave me a bunch of bags and boards, and then I started putting everything back. And even then, it was like still like it takes a special kind of collector to keep that in. Like I'm not like Bart Simpson over here, like I got tweezers and the fire, and I'm like turning pages, right? I'm like just reading them like I read them. But my kid now wants to look through those boxes. There's boxes are sitting right over there, and they want to look through them. I'm like, you are not ready. Like Andrew knows what's up. He's got your kid's almost 3, right? Like you're not ready to touch these comics, man.
She's thankfully past the point of like wrecking her books, but there was a point around when she was 2 where pop-up books would just get decimated.
Just ripped, man.
And I wanted to show her, like I still have my Dinotopia pop-up book from when I was a kid. I wanted to show it to her. I finally have gotten it out to show it to her because she's gotten to the point now where she doesn't just like accidentally pull things up. But,
my kid's got my Star Wars pop-up book, and that was hard to hand over because it's like that thick. And you're like, every page has corners that pop up, and there's like ships and stuff. And I'm like, she gonna wreck this book. And like, you've had it for so long. You're like, I protected this since I was like 10. Like.
It's like it's still mass-produced media, right?
Sure.
It's
most of it. Some of it is, yeah.
It was your mass-produced thing, right? But it's like it is replaceable, right?
Some of it. I mean, some of those old comics, though, you can't. It'll be really hard to replace some of the older ones. So
yeah, some of them are. They're nice. They're actually they're more like I love. Like I still remember walking into the comic store and seeing Beta Ray Bill on the cover of Thor, and like, what the hell is that? Like, what? And so you get it, and it's like you didn't realize it was it's the most like one of the most important Thor comics because everything else in Thor is like worthless. Like I've got plenty of other Thors, and they're like nothing. And but again, that one's got some value, but it's not thousands of dollars, right? It's like
they're just hard to find now.
Yeah,
like I've got like New Mutants, not New Mutants. Who's what are they called? New Warriors. Like the first appearance of the New Warriors, right? except my sister drew inside of it with freaking markers and stuff, and I'm just like, which, at the time I was just like, whatever, I can still read the comic book, right? She was a kid, I'm not gonna get mad about it. But now as an adult, I'm like, you know what this is worth? Like, you ruined it.
Yeah.
And now as a collector, but I also, so I wanted to ask you about, as far as your artwork goes, did you, where did you start exactly? I know what you do now, but I don't know, like, what you started out, like, were you doing, like, industry work? Were you doing personal work? What, like, got you?
No, like, I mean, I got lucky meeting up with a artist representative from, like, almost literally the day I graduated. Syracuse University, where I went to undergraduate for painting. So I'm not even like trained, quote unquote, as an illustrator, but I kind of took classes and all that. So I learned good business sensibilities from the illustration department and some of the teachers there. And so I was able to join in the portfolio reviews that Syracuse would have down in New York City for graduating seniors. And that's where they, like, basically take all the artists, the graduating artist portfolios. This includes, like, commercial designers and ad designers and illustrators. And they invite professionals from New York City to browse through, to come visit, browse, take a look, walk through, without the artist being there, so that they can kind of, like, not have to engage, which is nice. Like, it's actually, it's like walking through a portfolio website now, the equivalency, because you just look at the art, that's it. And what you like, you take, if you take someone's card, then you got a contact.
So yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it was great. And so that was like the first, so that was literally, a week before we graduate, our portfolios go down, and I get a couple responses back, and including this artist representative who works in the book industry. And he was looking for new talent to fill in. He was getting so many science fiction and fantasy requests to do cover work, and he mostly managed book jacket illustrators, that he was looking for somebody new to help, like, sweep up and fill the gaps with all these commissions.
So you got lucky. Well, I mean, your work is good, obviously.
But I also got lucky that he just happened to go there. He said my portfolio was the only one he took a business card from, that he left a contact.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
So it was great. Yeah, so I just got lucky that he just happened to go to this event. And then so I started making samples for him. And it took about 6 months before he felt he was comfortable enough to risk his reputation on my name and get me my first jobs. Yeah.
And you were doing what book covers did you do? Any we would know?
Well, the first one's a good, you might have heard this guy, Mark Twain.
Yeah. You did a Mark Twain cover. I was like, where's he going with this?
This guy, Jules Verne's.
Nice.
Jules Verne.
So, like, you got a lot of unknown authors, and you did book covers for them. Got it.
It was nice because actually after that I got a bunch of unknown authors, but those were the bottom feeder Walmart republications. Sure. So Walmart was taking old copyright free stuff and remarketing it, and they paid crap for the covers. But I was a bottom feeder, so I'd like, I'll do those. Like, give me those. Everyone else, almost all those other illustrators passed on them, but I was willing to do those covers. So that's cool. That's where I cut my teeth, was with Walmart, and nice big names that I could tell my parents, and they would go, "Oh, yeah, we've heard of that.
We know Walmart. We were just there right before you called."
We know Jules Verne.
Yeah, Mark Twain. We've heard of him.
My parents don't know it. My parents still to this day just tell their friends I do graphic design. I started as a graphic designer, so they'll just be like, "Oh, he does graphic design work," and I'm like, I haven't done that in years, man. Like. Why do you keep telling people that?
They have it in their head that that's where, right? That's what you do. And,
is it really that hard to say illustrator, like, or artist? It's somehow saying artist is like, I think they feel like it's like, as an Indian parent, right? It's like artist.
there is that aspect of like, it's the artist word is loaded with failure, right?
That's the way the society's looking at it now, right? Immediately, you're an artist. You must be having it rough. It's like, I'm not living in a cardboard box, guys. Like, I'm not like, buku rich, but I'm not living so poor that I can't like own a car and a house,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, luckily I'm married, so she helps a lot. So
that's the way it was with my parents too. Yeah. They like one of them, we could not have, I think, lived on one income alone. So both my parents worked, they were balanced. They were 50-50. Everything was equally split. Labor in the house, all of that.
Yeah, so, I do. Part of the business goes towards the household stuff. Part of it goes to the business, Yeah. So did you you mentioned Vermont. You grew up in Vermont. But you moved to, when did you move to Brooklyn? You live in Brooklyn, right?
Like actually because of, not so much because of that representative. His name was Sal Baraka, but I had wanted to move to New York City after graduating from Syracuse because that's where everything was. Right. Both actually getting back, like dialing back also there, Alan, is that I didn't know I was going to become a book cover illustrator.
Right.
I actually thought I'd be in comics because that's
Conan comics specifically.
No, science fiction comics. Sure. That's what, I love.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't do any like Weird Tales. I was gonna say Black Science, but that's a new one. Weird Tales or Astonishing Tales.
Or anything, it just didn't happen because of Sal. We can all blame Sal for my lack of a comics career.
Are you friends with Sal still?
I haven't talked with him in years. It's been a lot of years.
I was like, we're all gonna be like, Sal sucks.
No, Sal was actually, no way. Sal, I mean, I would not be the artist I am today without Sal because
that's cool.
He opened that door. He showed. I was with him for I think 8 years with a representative, and he really showed me the ropes of freelancing, playing hardball negotiations, being willing to turn your back on publishers and say, "I'm done with you. Like I'll work with somebody else." That kind of confidence came from my knowledge and watching Sal operate as well.
So you have do you have a new representative now, or do you just represent yourself when you get your?
I haven't. I had, after Sal, I was with Richard Solomon for just a couple of years. And we were trying to do new things and that didn't work out. So since basically 2002 or so, I've been, the past 20 years, I've been just myself.
That's cool.
No active representation.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought about getting like, when I talked to Dave at San Diego, because he was like doing all sorts of like advertising jobs and book covers and all that. I'm like, how are you getting all these jobs? And he's like, he's got a really good rep,
Right.
And then I was like, maybe I need a rep. But then I was like, I don't think I want to be like, I'm very specific about the jobs I take. And there's jobs I look at where I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Like, I feel like it's tough.
I was going to say for you, Alan, I don't know if a rep would be beneficial because it is like you have to be willing to be like, cool, what today I'm going to do a beer label. Tomorrow it's going to be a children's book or something else, like all over the place.
Right. That's what Dave does. He's doing these like, Coors Light ads with like crazy stuff in them. Like, I don't want to do those. Yeah.
I mean, because at that time he was doing like we saw a bus go by in San Diego and had like a bunch of stuff for SeaWorld, and he was like, I did all that. And I was just like, what? Like it's just like so random because I'm working in his booth, right? And I see all this fantasy art at his booth, right? Like the Cyberpunk and Star Wars, and I'm like, you do a ton of Star Wars stuff, and then I see the SeaWorld bus go by, and I'm like, that's totally random, but cool. He's like, it paid well. I'm like, okay, man.
Yeah, part of it is just like balance, trying to find that income balance, the streams that can help feed some of your other passions. Like I've done so many bad book covers, like it's amazing. And
you're not gonna name those, are you?
No, I mean, I share them I think you've seen some of them in the lectures that Alan, that I've given over the years. But it's partly, it's not like I'm trying to do bad covers, but sometimes you're trying to crunch time so that you can spend more labor on another book cover or another project that you really we really are passionate about, and something's got to give. So I've learned that rather than having constant mediocrity over my work, I'll let this drop to the bottom and then something rise with quality to the top.
I mean, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, basically it's been a real oscillation in the beginning. I should say in the beginning of my career, it was great. The oscillations were greater. And now I'm able to really pick and choose that I don't have to do that bottom drop anymore. I just I just make it work. So I don't have to deliver bad jobs anymore. And I really don't. I try not to, like I used to. I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's a good place to be if you're like I feel like when I do a lot of freelance now, I'm always like, it's not 100% where I want it to be, because I'm not that fast with my work yet. And then when you do freelance, they give you a timestamp, right?
Totally.
I did some some freelance recently where I feel like one piece came out really well and the other piece was like, but I was like, I have to submit this on Monday, so I'm just like,
yeah.
And then the client was
you're
like,
also,
they loved it, though.
I was gonna say, you're also like me, where you only have like your free hours in the evening.
Yeah,
because like you're like I have a day job at a studio. You're parenting the whole day, so it's not like you can really sit down and do a whole lot of freelance.
For now, I'm trying to get somebody to come help me here, because I would
like time constraint.
Yeah,
really limiting. Can be very limiting, huh?
Yeah, I only right. That's the other reason I don't take a lot of. I've gotten a lot of calls for freelance, but I keep saying no, even though I want to say yes. But I'm just like, I can't say yes, and then I know for a fact I'm gonna give you guys not 100% what I want to do.
Oh, mediocre work.
Yeah, it's gonna be mediocre work, because I'm gonna I don't work that fast, like I said. So it's like I could take the job, but then you're gonna get this, and then you do that enough times, you're just like, I don't feel good about that. So
yeah.
I also want to mention that the piece behind you is a book cover, right? I think you just posted that.
Actually, that's why it's in the studio here, the Dragon. It was we just had a chat with the author and the publisher yesterday.
Oh, cool.
And or Friday. I guess it was Friday. Jeez, it's already been 2 days.
Yeah, it's Sunday, man.
Yeah,
the weekend. I feel like the week goes by slow, but then the weekend just zips by really fast.
It does. Time change didn't help today either.
Dude, we thought our kid slept in an extra hour today or something, and we were like, wow, she actually slept in. And then I came downstairs to make coffee, and I was looking at the clock, and I was like, why did these clocks say?
Slept in.
Motherfucker. It was so annoying. I'm like, she just woke up when she normally wakes up.
That's right.
You mentioned your lectures too, and that reminded me. I remember I sat in a couple of your lectures at AlluxCon. I remember the one thing I took away that really stuck with me was the way you showed a little bit of your process of like how you thumbnail and how you kind of do the ideation before you get to a piece. And I remember, I think I messaged you later to be like, we do thumbnails the same, because you had a way of doing thumbnails which was not like overthinking them. You're just like, you kind of have like the basic shapes, and then what you want to paint. And previous mentors I've had have always tried to get me to do like these elaborate thumbnails, and I'd always be like, I don't want to, like
But there's stages, right? It's like like thumbnail. Yeah, like you can I do those I call them abstracts, because
that
thumbnailing implies like a miniaturization of your concept. But for me, it's not even there. It's like it's really playing with shape and value and light and form, and like it doesn't. They're not really thumbnails. Again, that's why I think we hit it off, right, Alan? That it's like, it's shape design, and then we see what forms out of that, and then I do another sketch after that to see what the hell did I just do here?
Right. So you got that base idea.
What it actually is.
Because he was like drawing it in class, and it was like all these like shapes, and then you obviously know what you're trying to paint eventually. But as an audience, I was watching, I was like, oh, he's just putting down his thought process. Like, this is going to be a tree, and this is going to be a whatever. And I was like, cool. And then you showed the next step, which was, you refine it a little bit, and then you keep refining it, and then eventually you have your amazing art piece.
The final color. Yeah. So it's those. So I don't see why. I guess some people just have a clearer idea.
The way it was described to me was if I get everything down in that thumbnail to structure wise, value wise, and then render it in that thumbnail as close to the final as I can get it. Then when I make the larger piece, I don't have to work so hard, which I understand.
You got a roadmap, right? Yeah,
but that is a learned trick, which I didn't want. I was like, I just like my scribbles, because in my head I'm like, you know how it is when you have an idea for a painting, you're like, I just got to scribble this down really quick, or I'm gonna lose it.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what you do. By the way, Ben Hill's watching. He said your lectures are great.
Oh, all right. Hi, Ben.
But I also was going to talk about I had this thought about your canvas pieces. I saw you're working. You're probably the only artist I know personally that works on giant canvas pieces. Like, is that just something that you were just like, I'm going to paint this 12 by 10 foot tall piece?
No, it's like I am so driven by projects that actually all those. I think I've only done 3 large canvases.
Sure.
And all 3 of those were commissions. So they were not me like, whimsical. But this latest one is me being whimsical and going, I just got to do one of these. Yeah. So I'm actually like a third of the way through it. So it's like, I haven't shared it yet. It's another big landscape kind of thing. But it's, I'm like, I'm just dying to like drop everything on my schedule just so I can work on this project. So it's
a personal. That's fun, right? Because it's a personal piece too.
Yeah, and it's Lord of the Rings,
of course, which you hate.
Yeah, I should say, actually getting back to like Lord of the Rings stuff. It's like I always, not always, but Lord of the Rings has just become a wonderful play space for me to slap a veneer on some idea. So even those other 2 of those large, massive canvases were really me building or playing in the world of the Hudson River School landscape painters. And like, I can do this with a fantasy quote unquote theme, but it's really just the celebration of that format, of that land, that grandeur landscape that the Hudson River School painters did. So like a lot of what I've been doing with Middle Earth paintings are the kind of tortured saints of Baroque, like Ribera or Caravaggio, and I'm going like, what can what if I bring Caravaggio into the Lord of the Rings? What comes out of that? That's where, yeah.
So Ben said even Donato has time for personal work, and it's a massive canvas painting, which is funny because like when I have, obviously all my work is personal work, and it's definitely not. I'm mainly digital. I've been trying traditional stuff on the side, but it's like small until I get confident enough to go. I don't think I'm ever going to go as large as you have with the pieces, but I guess never say never, right? You never know.
Well, the thing is, there's also the reason why this is up there. Actually, my daughter and I stapled it 3 years ago up there because I had a different, it was still Lord of the Rings, but a different scene in mind. And then just like a couple months ago, I got word that I'm going to have a large show down at the Huntsville Museum of Art, like a museum. So it's so it's got to be a big show, about like 120 pieces of mine. And I realized we need a showstopper. Like when you walk in, because those walls are huge. Like when you walk into a museum, and I mean those spaces are gigantic. So I said, okay, I need something that holds the viewer a little bit rather than those tiny little magic paintings or book covers, which are just a little larger. So that's why that's what got me on board to like, I gotta get this done by the end of the summer, so that's ready to go for the show.
Do you have 120 framed pieces sitting around?
Maybe like 60.
Damn.
Like a lot of drawings. So there's part of this is the illustrated book theme. So I've got a bunch of my recently illustrated
Dude, I'm still irked that I didn't get that George versus the Dragon from you. That one.
Oh, right.
I bought the Griffin, and then I should have bought the George in the same go.
Right. Oh, wow.
I learned that year. After that, last year when I was there, I bought everything I wanted immediately when I saw it. I didn't.
Does it? Someone else? If you like it, that means
somebody else likes it.
Right? Which means someone else is gonna enjoy it too.
I learned that lesson the hard way. That in 2019? I was like, damn, it happened so many times. I was like, why did you sit on it? You had the money, just buy it. So it's all right, man. That's how you learn. That's welcome to collecting art, right? Like you don't buy it right away, someone else is gonna jump on it. Look at questions. Yeah,
certainly. So big painting. So you're actually getting on like the like this idea of also your personal work.
Yeah,
is that I've done it, and again, like Lord of the Rings is part of it of doing a lot of personal work because there's not a lot of commissions for Middle Earth out there. They don't. I mean, they default to like Alan Lee, John Howe, Ted Nasmith. Those are the big three names that really 90% of the Tolkien commissions. So I realized if I'm never going to get commissioned hardly ever to do Lord of the Rings unless I do it myself. And so that motivated me to just like, okay, I'll just, when I get the right motivation, the right reference, then I'll kick it on. I'll start making these paintings.
I think you were the one that was talking to me about how a lot of those names are copyrighted now. So you have to be was it you that said you have to be very specific about what you name your pieces as you create them?
Well, Lord of the Rings is an exception to a lot of IPs because back in the 60s, Tolkien did not defend the use of the names that are out there, like Gandalf, Mordor, Frodo.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's how you can get away with making like a lot of the art I do and making books with those names, but you can't lift any quotes out of the books.
Got it.
So anything of the text, anything of the literature related to the books and Tolkien's names himself, you have to you basically just shy away. Don't use it because that.
So you can't call it like a Lord of the Rings artwork.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Because Lord of the Rings is the series name, and then they'll defend that.
Got it.
That usage. Yeah, protect it.
Interesting. It's interesting that they're like so hard up about that, but then they're like, "I'm gonna paint Gandalf," and like, "Go ahead, man. Knock yourself out." I actually was trying to. I own. I think it's a limited edition print I got from San Diego that year of when they're going crossing the mountains.
Yeah, the snowy scene, right?
Snowy scene. Yeah, it's like one of my favorite pieces by you. And my wife's trying to find stuff to hang. I can hang whatever I want in this room. This is my studio. But anywhere else in the house, there's discussion.
In the common area, right?
Yeah, in the common. Where the rest of you guys get to see, I have to make choices. So, and I was like, I got this really great Donato piece, and she's like, "What's it show?" And I'm like, "These beautiful snowy mountains." And then she's like, "What else does it show?" And I'm just like,
she knows.
Yeah. And I was like, Fellowship. And she's like, "When you say Fellowship, do you mean like Lord of the Rings?" I'm like, anytime anyone says the Fellowship, it means Lord of the Rings. It doesn't mean, no one should ever be associating that with they're not talking about the Avengers or the X-Men, always
they could
Lord of the Rings. Fine, we're calling ourselves the Fellowship from now on. See how weird that gets after a while. But yeah, I was like, they're real small and they're in the corner, and it's like you really don't notice them, So I'm still trying to convince her to let me. I mean, it's probably going to go up in here because it's a big one. It's like, I think it's 20
it's one of the the 24 by 30.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. Dude, I transferred that thing from San Diego like a baby. I had to put it in a tube and I had to tape it all up, and I carried it on the plane with me because I was like, I don't know what you guys are gonna do with this if I let you handle it.
Well, thank you. That's nice.
Oh, it's good. I wish I owned the original, but I probably can't.
But actually, we're hopefully gonna get that piece for the Huntsville show as well.
You borrow it back from whoever owns it or something? Or
the guy Joshua Patel, who's a collector, who collects a lot of magic art. So he's the owner. He's actually the one who commissioned it. So he has it in his offices, his business offices, his entryway wall is that painting. From what I've heard. there, but he's willing to loan it back to the museum for this.
That's cool.
The show.
Yeah, I mean, I would be the same way if I had an artist painting an artist. Like, can I put this in the museum? And be like, yeah, man, it's insured. Go for it.
Yeah. White glove. They'll come pick it up. Kind of great. They, the budget that they have for the show, so they'll be able to pulse a few of those kind of special paintings from different collectors.
I think it's interesting too when most collectors are like, that's cool, borrow it, take photos of it, whatever. I went to a Van Gogh museum once. I went to see a Caravaggio's in Dallas once, and they had a Van Gogh exhibit there too. And I was in there taking photographs of. There's 2 specific Van Goghs I took photos of that apparently you're not supposed to take photographs of.
Oh, okay.
They're like that rare. The collectors didn't.
I mean, is it because it's like? Was it because like they didn't want it to get damaged from the flash?
The security guard said the collector does not want photos taken of this piece. Like, I don't think they wanted people to know that they owned it. Maybe
owned it, shared it,
or whatever it is. Yeah. So I was like, cool. I still have a photo of it. I took it on myself.
You got one. Yeah.
I mean, I was very young and I had a camera, so I was taking photos on the camera, and then the security came over and made me delete everything off the camera. They never checked my cell phone, so I'm just like, peace out. Like.
Oh, they actually watched you delete it off.
Yeah, they stood there while I deleted it off my. I had taken photos on the camera and I had taken photos on my phone. And then I didn't think anything of it. The phone photos were because I wanted to show my cousins later.
Right.
And
okay.
They made me delete everything off just those photos, the Van Gogh photos. And then I was like, okay. Yeah. And I wasn't going to be like, I took photos on here too. I used that trick a bunch of times, actually. I went to London once. There's an old copy of Beowulf. And they were like, you can't take photos of it. And they made me delete it off my camera again. Again, I had photos on my camera phone, but I didn't say anything. Because I'm like, this stuff should be seen by people. Like, how do you not want people to see this?
Yeah. I think it's not so much that it's the copyright idea, although that's playing a part in it now, but it's most people, when they take a photo, usually the flash goes off. They're amateurs.
Yeah, right.
And, when you have literally hundreds upon hundreds of flashes, that really does add up to.
So all the signs here had a note saying no. They tell you no flash, no flash, no flash.
No flash, but again, amateurs
people still screw it up. Yeah.
Like, so if you let anybody take pictures, there's still going to be a lot of flash photography going off against these images. And it really, like, how much would it do?
I mean, you hit it enough times. It's like the Mona Lisa, right? You ever see have you seen the Mona Lisa? If you go by the Mona Lisa, it's like cameras are going off on that thing like every 10 seconds.
Constant. That's why I wonder, we all speculated, is that the original? Because it's like, will it get faded? But the glass is probably it's so damn thick.
Yeah. It's small like, too, right? It's only like...
Yeah. It's like,
I remember as a kid seeing photos of it thinking it was like huge.
Well, it's had to be small enough because Da Vinci carried it around with him for like 20 years.
I didn't know that.
And picking away at it.
Oh,
like how not to be a successful commercial artist? Take 20 years.
Take 20 years to finish a painting. Yeah, that won't get you
Make
places.
Friends with the wealthiest people in the world.
I need to get some rich friends. Is what I need.
Yeah, that's a rich patron. So that's why it looks so good. It's like, yeah.
Can you imagine that he commissions it? He's like, yeah, I'll get this done. See you in 20 years.
20 years. I don't even think he delivered it to the client. I think it was with him on his death.
Cool.
I just remember hearing that, reading.
So the client just shows up. He's like, that's mine. I need to take that.
Yeah, it's like, I'll just take that from him.
I'm just going to take that, and my condolences. See you guys later. So Ben had a good point, too, about Lord of the Rings. He said that's how the new series doesn't own any rights. Because, there's an Amazon series coming out. And there's a whole discussion about how they don't own the rights to like any of it, really. So it's like...
They don't own the rights to the... I always butcher the name. The Silmarillion?
Silmarillion, yeah.
Which means, like, they can't do anything... It was so weird because it was like, everyone was wondering, like, well, wait, how are they doing anything before, like, the Third Age or whatever?
Right.
And because it's talked about in Lord of the Rings. In the appendices. Yeah. So they can tap into the appendices that Tolkien included in the original publication of the Lord of the Rings. So
just not anything out of the Silmarillion.
Yeah.
Right, the actual publication of the Silmarillion. Right. Which is
that's kind of what I figured was.
Yeah.
Assuming this is the same film rights package that Warner Brothers had, and it just went over to Amazon. Amazon said, "Cool, we're going to buy that." They probably the Silmarillion's a whole separate film package, and they're like, "We don't want to spend that money. We're just good with this."
Probably, I would guess.
I feel like they never sell Silmarillion to anyone. Like maybe because that's like the Bible for him, right?
Not. I don't know how to Tolkien was dead. He wasn't alive. His son published the Silmarillion.
Right.
So it wasn't even completed in a holistic manner by Tolkien. So it's Christopher Tolkien putting together. I know if you've ever now we're going to start diving into geek, Lord of the Rings.
Let's go.
So level. Let's see if I got a level up or down here. So if you read Christopher Tolkien ended up publishing the Silmarillion in the early 70s, 73, 74, almost very soon after his father's death, or a couple years, maybe a 76, 77. But then he came out with other edited notes later on called Unfinished Tales, the Book of Lost Tales 1 and 2, the Lays of Elrond. And these were all variations of stories that were partly included in the Silmarillion. So what you see there is these are all just, Tolkien wrote these notes since he was in his mid-20s. The whole idea of Middle Earth and the Elvish language started from his, I think, graduate school studies of a linguistics, of creating a language. And then he needed a world to put the language in, and that's how Middle Earth evolved. But it was just disparate little stories here, there, and that was all the backstory that he was able to lay The Hobbit into and The Lord of the Rings, which then packaged into this bigger world. But those bigger stories were not ever formalized in any exact way. And so Christopher Tolkien, his son, just selected what he thought was important, what Tolkien was intending, and published the Silmarillion. But then he published all these notes, and he had published, I think, almost 10 books of these notes that followed.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so so names change, people's name, they have 2 names, 3 names, different names for things. So you really get some insight into the creative process and the divergent quality of storytelling that Tolkien was doing. So I guess getting back to the rights thing is so that's why he included a lot of backstory information in the Lord of the Rings, because he never thought he would probably publish the Silmarillion, all of those backstories. So he included a bunch of that stuff in, and that's what Amazon have access to.
I mean, what they're showing looks good, and I feel like you're gonna get a bunch of crazy fans out there who are not gonna like it, obviously.
Always.
That's always the case.
Yeah. So I feel like I'll like it.
It's just the way I look at the Jackson films. It's there's things in there that I absolutely love and thrilled with. Other things my eyes roll.
Right.
And it's just another artistic interpretation of those stories. Yeah. And that's it. And that's what this Amazon will be. It'll be an artistic interpretation, and you still have the source material, and you can, if you're hardcore, just focus on that, and then just take it as the salt, what it is.
You should most people should just be happy they got a movie and they get a show. It's enjoy the ride, man. Ben said Donato knows his Tolkien. For someone who doesn't like Tolkien, he knows a lot about Tolkien. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have a Tolkien tattoo on you somewhere and you're not telling us about it.
You know what? I don't, but
I thought you were gonna say I do. I was like, here we go.
I'm not a tattoo person, so I don't.
That's the next one. I'm probably gonna get a Tolkien one here.
You are.
We'll see.
But speaking of Tolkien tattoos, at the Allentown Museum of Art, when we were having a LuxCon the first year, I'm loading. I'm taking my stuff to the loading docks, and one of the guys who's helping to organize it reaches down and on his forearm, I see the one tree with stars around it, and I notice that it had I think the crown missing. So I was like, oh, that's the stewards of Gondor. And he's like, how? Like, because the crown means it's the king. So
right.
7 stars. It's like, so I've got,
he's like, that's not right.
It's not, but the fact that I called it out exactly as right, he's like, you know your stuff, kind of.
Yeah, so it's like that's the we had Armand on last week, and he knew my Dark Tower. I have a costume.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not a Dark Tower. So yeah,
but like it's when somebody realizes what's tattooed to you, it's a cool feeling, man. Like because I got other ones on this arm that nobody can figure out, right? So you won't know any of these. They're all bands, and then I've got merch on my body. You might know Star Wars. I've got a Star Wars one here.
Star Wars, yeah. So let's see. Oh, my resolution is not your.
Here's my Mandalorian.
Oh, Mandalorian. Okay, all right.
And then I have a Jedi one on this arm.
Oh, right.
I like tattoos. If you guys haven't figured it out, it's true. If you get one, you'll want more. Everyone would always be like, "You'll never stop at one." I was like, "Yes, I will." This is my first one. I was like, "It's fine."
I have a friend that got his first tattoo like several years ago, and it's just been
you just keep going, man.
Yeah.
And then I got one here. This one was painful. If you watch Supernatural, that's a Supernatural.
No, almost all of those they're circular. I mean, is your arm also? Was it almost all circular?
I'm working on a design. I try to. Yeah, I like more like organic shapes, so I try to stick to. There's only so many that are rigid, like the Lincoln Park one here.
Okay. Yep.
But I'm working on one. I want to get like a key with my kid's name on it, and then kind of like I was trying to design. Initially, I was going to design like a universe, and then all the stuff flows into the key. But nothing I've drawn. I'm designing it myself. Nothing I've drawn has like been like, aha, that's it. So I'm drawing is redrawing. So I've been back at it because it's like it's a tattoo. It's not like I can. There's no Control Z on it if I screw it up.
Permanent.
It's permanent. Right. So I got the key, so I might start with the key. But also I live this life now where it's like, when I was working corporate jobs, I was like, you can't really get tattoos because you're gonna have to roll your sleeves up at some point and
expose
it all, and now you don't get all. Yeah, I'm like, I'm not gonna get a face tattoo, so nobody needs to worry about that.
You're not gonna go the Post Malone route,
dude. I mean, kudos to you if you want to get a face tattoo. I don't see the hype in that, but
yeah, me neither. The thing, I'm kind of like you, Donato. I'm not a tattoo person myself.
I'm telling you guys.
I love.
If either of you guys gets one tattoo, you'll be hooked. It's like a drug.
Yeah.
I know. At least for me,
body's not nice to look at. It's a little older, and it's very hairy. So it's like,
that's more information than we needed. Now I'm almost certain he's got a Lord of the Rings tattoo on his back. It's the tree, isn't it, with the crown on it? Speaking of that tree, it's cool because like I have a friend that I grew up with who loves him and I love Lord of the Rings at our level, not your level, by the way. But but if I text him, it's funny because I could text him Gondor has no king, and he'll immediately text back Gondor needs no king. Without missing a beat, I'll get that message back in like less than a minute. I'm just like, that's awesome, And my wife's always like, yeah, you guys are super geeky. Got it. We are a little over an hour, so that's usually when we try to wrap it up. Wow. But definitely, if there's anything we didn't ask you about that you want to talk about, like another personal project you want to talk about, or
no, yeah. I'm actually amazed that it's already gone.
Time flies, man.
Yeah, I guess I wanted to speak back to this idea of personal pieces. Like I do these robots. I call them empathetic robots.
Yeah,
and that kind of ties into I think a lot of the different themes we've had touched on today about personal ideas. But also the reason why I do those is to make sure that I'm pursuing areas both of interest for myself, but are also for me, I think, commercially viable for like selling paintings, creating an intellectual property, even though that's not my intent. but it builds a world that I can insert other narratives inside of if I want to, that I can expand upon. And again, it's done without the commercial weight or pressure of someone else's requirements of deadlines, but it allows me to bring and invest my highest level of integrity in the work and share it with an audience. So even though I'm not paid for those things, I still believe very critically and seriously about making sure that I get them out of me, so that I can open up new avenues of potential business for myself. Like this large painting is like, yeah, I'm making it for the museum show, but I'm also making it for next year's AlluxCon, because it won't show up at this year's because it'll be at the show.
Right.
But in the fall next year, if I still have it, I haven't sold it, I'll be bringing it to AlluxCon and filling one of, like, I don't know where we'll put it, but
what are you going to bring to LuxCon if you've got 120 of your pieces going to this museum?
Yeah, well, those are mostly older works.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, I'll have new stuff. I'm always, so it'll be a smaller AlluxCon probably.
Sure.
But I'll pull something out.
But I think what you just said about personal projects is good to remember. Like, you do those robots, which you do them for yourself, but you're also building this universe where you can easily make something else within that universe if you wanted to, right? If you get another idea, like the world I've built for my stuff, and I want people listening to understand, I don't mean IP in a bad way. You can still call it an IP. It's your personal work though, right? When I created my universe, and I'm working on I'm trying to work on a kid series on the side, it still exists inside the same universe. I didn't want it to be set up in a way where I have to start a whole new series or a whole new project.
Yeah, right.
I want everything to exist inside this Ancient Ones world, whether it's a kid's book or, it's mainly sci-fi right now. I've got an idea for a fantasy series.
Right.
And it's going to tie into that same world. And so, you're never really leaving my universe. You're still there, having a good time or not,
Yeah.
And that's the way
smart.
to make it.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, what's up, man? Oh, yeah, time change got him too. People did not reset their clocks.
Everybody.
I've had a couple people message right now in the chat saying, "Oh, the time change got me." We can stay on a couple more minutes. It's fine. You guys can enjoy the ride.
Right.
I'm trying to, when it comes to personal projects, I think that's where, I've seen the robots. I think they're awesome, and I think, even if you're not getting paid for it, it's cool to do something like that for yourself because you feel nice and you're also working on your skills.
Right.
Which just also they go hand in hand. They get you work, right? So.
Yeah, it can lead over to crossovers to other commission work. And actually, I just had a kind of a big, quote unquote, big Middle Earth piece. It was 4 feet by 4 feet, so it's modicized.
So that's small for you.
Oh yeah. The walls of Moria, and so that's at AlluxCon. That was a personal piece. I'm not selling it, but again, it makes a statement. It shows the audience, collectors, other people, what I'm capable and interested in doing. And then it also, kind of fits a place in my scope of commissions that, here's the epic, and, downscaling from that, here's a different kind of book cover, here's a simpler magazine cover, here's a portrait. So I kind of create a scaling that people can understand where they can access my work. And that's, unless you really show it, you're not going to lead people to that awareness of what you're capable of doing artistically, or where your true interests kind of lie. So by laying these things out there, you provide, sometimes I call it common ground, so that people go, "Oh, you're into that. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know you like to do landscapes. You seem such a figurative person, Donato. Like all I see is figures. Right. But now I'm getting into the landscape. So I'm trying to throw more landscapes out there so that people can then see that as a commission possibility or a commercial commission, private or commercial as an opportunity."
That's cool. Yeah, like you did. You had some. I didn't even mention any of your magic work, but you had some stuff on the new
Yeah, 7 new paintings for the Neon Dynasty, the Kamigawa.
Yeah. How did it feel working with neon colors? So that's not your wheelhouse.
No, I don't know.
That's my wheelhouse.
You're super saturated neon. Like, wow.
They did not hire me for a single card, man. It was right there. I was right there, man.
Yeah, right. Just got to get on there, right?
I'm trying, dude. I'm trying.
Radar. Yeah,
I need to call your rep.
My rep. He's out of the business.
I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, like I saw the work you were posting from it, and I was like, wow, this is it's cool. It's totally different for you, but it's cool, you know?
Yeah. I guess I never felt it was like totally different, but it's different.
I meant like color-wise, really, you know?
Color-wise, I think if I showed you like the full range of my magic art, you'll see it's actually pretty
right
colorful.
There. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. Yeah, it's just that they were using neon essence structures, so it was definitely I intentionally just amplified up. I should say like it's the same color that it was like 15 years ago when I was doing book illustration a lot more. Those really very colorful images, similar to what Kamigawa was called for.
Ben said your vampire landscape with Van Gogh vibes for Secret Lair was awesome. I don't think I've seen
that thing. Yeah.
Oh, that thing. I'm have to look this thing up.
That was just very subtly hinted at, I think, if that's what he's thinking of. That just I'm taking license. Yeah.
Vampire.
With your
with
your pay. So like I remember you mentioned earlier when you're doing like when you were doing your personal work, how you try and like approach it by saying like, oh, this is Caravaggio piece. I take on the Caravaggio piece, so I'm going to put like Lord of the Rings or some kind of something of the subject interest to you, but really the I guess the impetus behind it is you want to explore like a similar kind of structure that Caravaggio had in one of his paintings, or like the same thing with like you mentioned a landscape painting that had like the Brandywine influence to it.
Yeah, Albert Bierce. Yeah.
Like do you take that? Do you also do that with like freelance work or like paid work where you say like, okay, like the Kanagawa piece, was there something particular when you looked at for the neon colors or?
Oh, interesting that what fascinating. I guess I've never realized it, or most of them when I engage on a commercial level, I don't actually turn on that kind of thinking, like bringing something new, because it's kind of like it's about bringing something new to the table, and commercial work is not about me bringing something new. It's them, my client, bringing something new to what I do, and so they want a security. Like I'm going to deliver a certain level of Donato-esque style to the job. So I can't be bringing in, I'm going to do I'm going to do the Van Gogh sloppy, messy,
yeah.
Like, no, they don't want that. So not that I would do, but they would. So I guess I turned it off most of the time. Interesting that you pointed out. Yeah. And I tend to just pour it on when I'm doing my own personal pieces a little bit more. Yeah. But that makes me think, it's like, oh, maybe I should try that a little more. Because like Kamigawa could have benefited if I think maybe played with design a little bit more. Like I, let that stuff fall out into a different aesthetic a little more. But yeah.
You got deadlines to meet when you do stuff for them, so you can't be.
That's true. Also,
you around.
Because things can always go sideways, and you're like, oh god, now I'm like just
killed a bunch of
time on myself too. Yeah,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like introducing that extra level of curveballishness, it might mess you up.
Yeah, if they're not expecting it, you're gonna really screw with their time, your time and their time. So, it's funny.
Yeah.
So it's funny. There's one of the viewers, Joe, is watching, and Joe's he's probably one of the biggest Magic fans I know right now. And
all right,
Joe would probably buy all your stuff if you had the money. Like unlike me, I'm broke too. So
But yeah, Magic. Actually, like getting back to like a rep for Magic is I actually got into Magic because of artists, not because of a representative.
Sure.
So
like you had artists recommend you to.
Yeah, exactly. Artist I met at because I was going to a comic book convention with one of my friends who's a comic book illustrator, Steve Ellis. I think you might know him.
I know Ellis. Yeah.
Steve. So Steve and I were at a Philadelphia convention, and at this event was another artist that Steve knew who was like swarmed with people, and he was doing Magic, and he was just getting like signatures and all that. And Steve and I are sitting there. We got like 2 or 3 people at our table, and he's got a line that stretches the back, right? And it's like, what does that guy do? And so we ended up having dinner later, and then he goes, yeah, you should send in your portfolio to Magic, Wizards of the Coast. They're looking for new people, and you could get work from them. And so like 3 or 4 months later, I finally sent it in. I was a little slow back then, like figuring I didn't really need the work, but that's how I got it, was because of Brian Wackowitz was the artist. Sorry, I forgot to mention. So Brian was and so he opened the door for me, and that's actually how it's happened for quite a few artists, I think, is like getting that extra push, reminder, the set match or stuff. It helps.
I mean, I'm still like, I've shown, I talked to Zach Stella. He's got my stuff.
You got the end. Yeah, Zach.
So, and then Scott had Richard Whittier on one day, and Richard reached out and said, talk to Zach and tell him to send it to Tom Chencott. So I got all I've shown the work to the right people. It's just a matter of like, they got to find somewhere to use my stuff still. And, if it happens, it happens. So.
Yeah, because Alan, you got definitely like a more of a sci-fi bent to, like, right, because of the color, the sharper edges, the angular. So it's like they got. Yeah, you're right. You would have been perfect match for Kamigawa.
Oh, I know. I think the problem was that you guys all got hired for that way before I even got wind of it, and then by the time I realized it was there, like it was already like. So it's not like
it's already done.
It's not like I wasn't there. It's just bad timing, and
the lead time on it makes it right. By the time it's actually revealed, that's been like what, several months that it was been and done.
It's almost a year.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I'm always like, when it happens, it happens. If it happens, I'm not stressed about it.
Right.
I need to be like, give me the job already. But no, I think like just got to keep working, and whatever happens, because that's just all you can do. Ben said, Ben said I had 5 or 6 portfolio reviews with Magic ADs before I got hired.
Oh yeah,
and then it ended up being an AD I had never done a review with. That's awesome, So you just never know, when it happens, it happens. But okay, now we're a little over time, which is fine.
Okay.
Thanks. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Would totally like to have you back whenever we're free again. I know you're super busy. But maybe someday I'll visit Brooklyn and come check out that giant painting. Steal it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, hopefully I'll be done before, like, unless you're coming this summer.
I haven't been to New York in, I'm trying to get to New York Comic Con. I might come if I get into New York Comic Con, but
that'll be in like
it's like November, I think.
Yeah, beginning sometimes.
Yeah,
they've moved it around. Yeah,
they keep moving it.
November.
Yeah, I haven't been in New York in
November
years
now.
So, well, they got. I think a lot of their stuff got bought out by Fan Expo, and then they're trying to figure out what's happening.
Oh, it's just the cost.
Is it still at the Javits Center?
Yeah, it's still at the Javits Center. They had it this year. Actually, I had a table, and I wasn't feeling safe enough to go, so I just people took photos of it blank there, like shared it, like what?
I mean, you kept it, right? That's what you got to do, That's the thing they were trying to figure out for San Diego. Like, I was talking to Ron, and we're like, are we going to go or not? And we're like, I think all of us are edging on like, how does it feel? I'm just like, well, as long as we don't lose the spot. I don't want to lose the spot yet. I have books this year to show, so we'll see. But all right, well, let's wrap this up. So, but Yeah. Again, thanks. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. But maybe we'll. You know what we should do is we should do a Lord of the Rings episode and have you and Steven on, and then we can do a pop quiz in the middle of the show and see who's the best. No, I'm just kidding.
Steve will probably win on that.
Yeah, that dude it's like it's like photographic memory of all that stuff.
Yeah, he's got that advantage.
Yeah, so. All right, thanks for everyone who was watching. We don't have a guest on for another 2 weeks because some stuff has come up. We're a little busy. But I'll announce.
I'll be out for like a week, and then don't you have a show after that? I can't remember.
Yeah, you're out for a week, and then I have what show am I at? Oh, I'm at GaryCon. I didn't even know where I was going.
Right.
I'm not working the show. I'm basically I don't know if you guys ever heard of GaryCon.
Yeah.
So I've never checked it out, and then I think most of you guys know Brian Cullen. So Brian was like, "Hey, you want to just go check it out?" He's got an RPG he worked on called Vast Grim that I did some artwork on, and I have an RPG potentially coming out by next year for my world. So GaryCon seems like a good place to like mingle and get to know some people, and it's only like 3 hours from here. It's in Wisconsin. So
that's fun, right? Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's take 2 days it's a weekend. We'll go on Friday and come back by Sunday. So we'll see. Right. I don't know. I'm not going to make money at it. That's for sure. So, but all right, let me hang tight. What's that?
Yeah. You don't know. Like, it's not necessarily the sale that can happen there. It's the connection that comes.
That's afterwards. So I'm hoping it's the same with San Diego, right? San Diego's always been a networking show. It's never been like, I get lucky there. I do sell stuff, but it's always been like, let's lay down these foundations. And I feel like a lot of artists I know right now I met at San Diego my first time there. So, and a LuxCon, obviously, if you get a chance to show.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show of convention going, marketing.
Are you going to be at Are you at Planet at all or Spectrum if it happens?
Planet Common probably not, because that's just like straight up retail that whole day. Yeah. I think we did that three years ago back when it ran, and it was just like a retail. It wasn't, there weren't events, there weren't lectures that were melded in. So I didn't really. It's not actually. That's why I don't go to San Diego Comic Con, because it's just like it was just becoming a pure retail experience. It was
I kept doing San Diego. I was literally going and talking to art directors and getting reviews and stuff, and then
that makes sense. That's smart.
Well, hopefully I can lay those foundations down. All right. Let me hang tight 1 second. I'm gonna take us offline.
Okay.
Thanks everyone who's watching. I'll announce the next guest as soon as I sort it out. I think we're a little behind for 2 weeks because I had to move. It's most likely going to be Area Fawn and then Tristan Etwell. Is that how you say his last name?
Elwell?
Elwell. Elwell.
Oh, just Elwell. Yeah. Hold on.
So it'll be Elwell and Area Fawn. I just have to figure out when they're available and I'll announce it. All right, hang on 1 second. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it.